Usually it says recording in progress. Okay, thanks, Robert. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's city council meeting. City of Anamosa City Council Agenda Regular Session, Monday, May 9th, 2022, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center. 1.0 roll call.
Here.
Songbird,
Here.
Smith. Here. Stout.
Here.
Tukin.
Here.
Zumba.
Here.
Note that all council members are present in chamber. 2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Three point zero approval of agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Allen. Discussion. Dana, please conduct a roll vote.
Songbird,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Tukin.
Yes.
Zumba.
Yes.
Crump.
Yes.
Motion to approve, carried unanimously. 4.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 4.1, April 25th, 2022, regular council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second,
Did we see them?
we're in the paper.
I didn't see them in here.
No.
Yeah, they're not in the packet, but they're in the paper.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay.
Do you, just a second, do you want to table it until the next meeting so you can review them if you have not seen them?
Is there anybody else that hasn't seen them? The one time.
I haven't seen.
Might not be a bad idea, just
I'll withdraw my motion.
Which Kay, you're happy to withdraw your second.
Sure.
So at this point, then I would entertain a motion to table approval of these minutes.
I'll make a motion to table the minutes until everyone can see them.
second.
Motion by Rich, second by Allen.
Jeremiah, we either send those out or include it in the next packet. Okay,
Yeah. I can do both.
just in case newspaper might be gone by now. I don't know.
Any other comments or questions? Was it just an oversight?
Yeah.
Good enough. Dana, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Tukin.
Yes.
Songbird.
Yes.
Zumba.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to table carried unanimous. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 old business. 6.1 review and approval downtown revitalization facade improvement project change order 2224. Jerry? With us?
He is not available tonight. He said it would be until probably later. I think most of the packages includes kind of the reasoning for their request. And if there are questions, we can ask.
Just for public information transparency, could you give a summary of that, Chief?
Yeah, essentially what I got from both Derek and the change order is it boils down to the weather has been unusually cooler. The paint, there were some issues with the painting. Essentially the contractors were unable to get out without having special tents or heating equipment, things of that nature. Otherwise they risk it not sticking properly or staying properly to its surface. So they requested this extension.
And that extension is for $24,524.18.
Yes, for the change order, yep.
Well. No, the way I'm reading this is the contract sum will be unchanged by this change order in the amount of $0.
Yeah.
That was previous change orders of 24,000
This change order is just a time
for, yeah, it's just extending for 30 days.
till May 31st, as I read it anyway.
Yeah, that's the way I'm reading
Yeah, it
this.
looks that way.
So this new final completion date is for the May 31st, 2022. With the unchanged for this change order, that's correct. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I agree. My eyeballs got a whole line off. Probably tells me I should probably consider getting some type of spectacles.
I'll make a motion to
Here you
approve
go.
the change order.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Further discussion? Dana?
Stout,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 6.2, review and approval purchase of international dump truck with box as allocated by Streets Department in the amount of $167,690. Shane Brown.
Good evening, everybody. As you know, we already have a dump truck on order, still not here. But we're running up into where we need to order another one, or at least get it on order. Right now, we're waiting for spots. So if we get our name in, we get a spot. And then it goes through down their computer. And then sometime they'll pick it, and then it might not be built till next September. We just don't know. The box, if the price of steel goes down, the box price will go down too. It was a little higher than the last one. I called 3 or 4 places, and International was the only one that got back to me. And I called 2 or 3 times to everyone again, just to make sure that they had a chance. And then they didn't get back to me those times. And International, which that's what we're getting now, would like to have another chance. But I called, like I said, I called every place I'd called before, and nobody wanted to give me a bid. So International gave me a bid, and then Henderson for the box.
Well, they locked that price in.
Well, yes and no. Yes, they're gonna lock in this price, but if steel goes up, no. But if steel goes down, the price goes down. That's where we sit with this lovely time in the world right now.
And that goes with the truck and the box.
The box will probably stay the same price. The truck will, the box will go down. If steel goes
No,
down.
the truck's set, the box is fluctuating.
Mhm.
So did you actually talk to anybody else at the other companies, or they just didn't return your call? when
I
you left a
talked to
message?
two head salespeople at the other places, and they said they'd get back to me, and they never did. And I called them twice.
And they never gave you a reason why.
Nope.
What year is the one we're trading?
It's an 09.
Like the oldest one we have?
Nope. Jerry's is an 07. And that was supposed to be gone already. If it would have been on time, it would have been gone last October.
That's the one that you're trading it in on, the one that
Supposed,
that's already on
That's
order,
already
yeah,
on
it's
order.
already on order. So this 09 will be,
will be your next
is
oldest.
the next one. And then we're good for a little while.
Shane, the one on order, is that tabbed for current fiscal year?
They say we'll have it
Well,
in
no, I mean,
November.
As far as our budget.
Yeah, so,
This-
we
this
actually,
one here
we
would-
budgeted for 2 trucks on the next budget.
July 1st.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, because.
Because we're budgeted, I already have the money from last year because I would have paid out in November. So we just rolled some more money into it. It's not gonna cover it, but we have to at least get on. I mean, it might not show up till next July, which would be another year. But it doesn't cost us anything to put our name on their list to get built.
I think those companies would like to sell trucks. I'm surprised they never got back to them.
You know, it's quite possible their queue is so full, they maybe have a hard time.
It's hard
Doing
telling.
It's really hard to know what their reasoning is without actually talking to them.
Yeah, I was frustrated, when you call somebody to get a quote and they don't call you back.
Yeah,
Your request this evening is just to get your name in the pot, so to speak.
Yep.
And it doesn't commit us to do anything
Well, it commits us to buying a truck.
yeah.
other than, yeah.
I mean, pretty much what this is we just need your approval to buy this next truck. We'll sign and get us in a queue. That's what it boils down to.
Is there a penalty if you change your mind?
They didn't say that.
Surprised with that long of a list that they give you pushback, somebody else can take it. But that's, I guess, to find out later.
Is there a better market for that used truck than trading it in?
I mean, we could probably try and sell it outright, but it's kind of hard to sell it outright when you're not getting a truck.
Well, I realize that, but you're not going to trade it in until you get the truck either,
Right.
so.
I mean, we could try and sell it on maybe what is it, government.com or something? Or at an auction and hope.
Could you put it on there once you had a better idea what was coming up and you could put a reserve? And then,
Well, they said, no, I was supposed to get this dump truck in November. Then it got pushed to January. Then I was gonna see it in March. And I don't,
The current one,
The current
Mhm.
one,
you're
the
still
one.
waiting on that.
so I'd hate to put put some on reserve and then we're to sell and then we don't have one. But I mean, we could take the trade off of there.
Well, I'm just asking if there's another.
I was-
Possibly, if you could pick up a couple $1,000s if you sold it outright or. As opposed to trade, but I don't know what condition it's in, if it's,
No, it's in pretty good. I mean, it looks nice. But she's starting to rust out. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
from the salt and the weather. And
if it runs, there might be some small community that would be glad to have it.
Yep.
Further discussion? Are we point of a motion?
The
I'll
truck-
make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Any other comments?
Truck market's real high right now. We might be a lot better off to sell outright. Used ones are going for top dollar.
Yeah, I think we could wait and see what happens as we get closer to
Right.
completion to figure out. But I think we might be able to pick up more money if we sell it outright.
Another thing you could possibly do is contact small cities around here and tell them we've got a decent truck that we're thinking about selling and put a price on it and tell them that it won't leave till we get our truck and they could put their name on it. I mean, that's another thought. Wouldn't hurt
Whatever you'd
looking
like to
into it.
do.
Investigate it.
Okay.
Anything else? Dana, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 7.0 new business. 7.1 public hearing. Booth Street Water and Storm Sewer Improvement Project. Item 1, I'll open the public hearing. You've had any contacts or inquiries, chief?
I have not.
This public has any questions, now would be the time. There will also be an opportunity in the next agenda item as well. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Dana, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve closing carried unanimously. 7.2, review and approval. Booth Street Water and Storm Sewer Improvement Project. Notice of award to Eastern Iowa Excavating and Concrete LLC.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Marsh. I'm with HR Green in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. As you mentioned already, Mayor, we received bids this past week on May 5th for the Booth Street Water and Storm Sewer Improvements Project. We received 4 responsive bidders. The lowest responsive bidder was from Eastern Iowa Excavating and Concrete for $1 million, $12,788.75. And after review of the bids and bid tabulations, we recommend award to Eastern Iowa Excavating. That is the same company that we recently awarded the Sycamore Street Sidewalk project to, incidentally, for those that are thinking that name sounds familiar, that's the same contractor. And I'm here to answer any questions or respond to any comments.
And how soon are they gonna start?
They can start as soon as we get their insurance and contract and shop drawings going. So within the next month or so, I would say.
Okay.
With the, if this project is awarded to Eastern Iowa Excavating, with those 2 projects, obviously they ran the numbers, the days of the week, the months of the year, that they can get both projects in. Why at the same time? Do you see any issues
I
in
think-
relationship to that?
I'm just speculating, but I would imagine that they have some synergies between the crews of the 2 projects, and that may be why they came in low. Because they can have the same crew or, same staff in town at the same time and have some efficiency there. So, but But they're a large enough company to do both projects. I can answer that, yes.
Well, we all know that inconveniencing the public can be raise the hair in the back of your neck, inconveniencing them for an extended period of time
Right.
could create chaos. So,
We worked with the city staff during the construction phase of the Booth Street project, during the design phase of the Booth Street project, so that we could maintain access for the businesses and homeowners affected along that stretch of street. So we will continue to work through that with the contractor during construction, make sure we maintain access to those businesses and homes affected.
so I raise the question.
Well, you're exactly right. It is going to be an inconvenience and it will be a disruption, but we'll do our best to try to minimize that for sure.
Discussion, comments, questions from council? I'll go to the public for any comments regarding the project. Motion,
I'll make a motion to award Eastern Iowa Excavating and Concrete the contract.
Second.
motion by Rich, second by Brooke. This time, is there any further council discussion? Dana, would you please conduct the roll call?
Kazemba,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve the bid carried unanimous. 7.3, discussion and possible action, water treatment plant disinfection improvement agreement.
I can speak to this agenda item as well this evening. Again, Andrew Marsh from HR Green. Before you tonight in your council packets is a proposal from HR Green to design and permit the disinfection improvements that we've been talking about at the water treatment plant. As you recall, the water treatment plant currently uses gaseous chlorine. It's a very good chemical for providing the required residual to disinfect the water, but it comes with some with some inherent risks of gaseous chlorine. It's a hazardous gas. And we did a report recently that assessed 3 different alternatives, one being gaseous chlorine that you have now and making it better and safer than what you have now. 2, converting to a liquid, essentially a bleach, a liquid disinfectant. And the third option that we looked at was a on-site generation because chlorine is made from power and salt. We looked at the advantages, disadvantages, and costs of all 3 of those alternatives to provide the required disinfection. And we arrived at a recommendation for the liquid chlorine system to change the disinfection system that you have now from the gaseous system and move to a liquid chlorine system at the water plant. So like I said, the agreement that you have in your council packet is for the actual design and permitting of that liquid disinfection system. And I'm here to answer any questions or respond to any comments that you may have on that.
Is there liquid chlorine, is that under pressure?
The liquid chlorine is not under pressure as it's stored in the storage tank, but then it is pressurized and dosed into the system. So it's unpressurized for part of it and pressurized for part of the system.
I was just looking at the hazards to the people around it. So the storage is not under pressure.
Correct.
How much pressure is it to
just to get it to the system pressure of the, 60 to 80 PSI.
Okay.
It's pumped into the system to get the chlorine contact time that you need for the disinfection process.
If
So the
that-
hazards are much less with liquid bleach as it's compared to gaseous chlorine. Because liquid bleach is a contact hazard. It'll bleach your jeans if you
Mhm.
get it on your clothing, but it's not the inhalation hazard that you would
Yeah.
find with gaseous chlorine.
I'm hearing you from a employee handling and a public safety. This is,
Tremendously more safe as compared to gaseous chlorine. Yes, absolutely right. And for first responders that respond to a leak, they would also be much better off responding to a liquid bleach disinfectant than it would be for a gaseous response. Right.
Can you update number 2 on the bottom of the first page says Mount Pleasant Municipal Utility?
Sorry. Yes. Usually Kay points those out. when you have typos.
She's been on vacation. She's a little slow.
the
I
worldwide
seem to be
market.
famous for typos around here.
Andrew, the
My apologies.
worldwide market we're in,
Yeah.
how does availability of the liquid chlorine match up to the other options?
Great question. So you're exactly right. We're seeing inflationary pressure on all commodities, chemicals, including liquid chlorine. And certainly one of the important characteristics of liquid chlorine is that it has to be maintained fresh because it does have like a half-life where it does become less effective over time. So it depends upon having a good supplier and good routine route to the water plant. We're seeing increases for the same reasons as the truck is increasing in price with the increases in steel price. Those same supplier pressures can be affecting chemical costs. I've heard numbers in the 10% to even as high as 30% range, but your staff probably is seeing that on the rest of the chemicals at the plant. And so the way that we handled that in the comparison of alternatives was, again, when we looked at the 3 alternatives for the disinfection for gaseous, liquid, and on-site generation, we looked at not just today's cost, but the DNR requires us to look at a 20-year projection for the demand and for what the pros, advantages, disadvantages, and costs will be of those systems.
Would we be procuring the new liquid from the same company we're currently purchasing? So we still have that relationship. That's good that we're not starting from scratch with somebody, because you usually wind up at the bottom of their list. Council, any-
Could you, well, I was just gonna ask, could you describe what changes need to be made to accommodate this new type of system?
Sure. So the water plant has a disinfection dedicated room right now. And in that room, it has the gaseous chlorine bottles secured up against the wall. It has a scale to measure the weight of the bottle, so you know how much chlorine is in the tank. And it has some dosing equipment to dose the gas into the water to provide the disinfection residual. And it has a monitor to monitor the residual chlorine once it's dosed. The liquid chlorine system is very similar. The gaseous chlorine equipment and scale is removed. A day tank and a storage tank will be placed in that same room. And we'll have a way to fill that in bulk from a bulk chemical delivery and have containment around that in case it leaks for any reason. And then the dosing, instead of gas dosing equipment, it's a pump. And it will dose the liquid chlorine based on the plant flow, so that you're always dosing the right amount, no matter if it's 10 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock in the morning, because your flow does fluctuate throughout the day. And then it'll have the same residual equipment that you have now. So we'll reuse as much of the existing equipment as possible.
As possible. So there is some changeover and updates that will need to occur.
Yep, all the gaseous equipment will be removed. The same equipment will measure the chlorine residual.
That can occur without downtime.
That's a very good question, and we're required by law to always maintain that residual. So there'll need to be a temporary dosing station set up in the filter bay while the disinfection room is being converted, so that there's never an interruption in maintaining that disinfection residual.
So how long will the changeover take?
Well, the contract you have is to design it so we can have a more detailed construction sequence and construction schedule laid out when we have those final design details worked out. But this would be over a series of, the crossover is only going to take a few hours, but to have the infrastructure and everything there in place will probably take, a few months to do all the shop drawings and installation.
Well, I'm just looking at physically inside the building, how long would the exchange probably take? A couple of days?
I think once everything's in place, it would be just, a very brief crossover period. Because again, we can't have that interruption. And we'll work with the plant staff during the design to make sure that the temporary facilities are out of the way and serviceable and those kinds of details.
Well, Andrew, I know we've talked about this project, but sitting here tonight, it kind of raises, a few other questions, and one of them I would have, if we would lose control over something with the new project or the new product, hazmat, fire department, you handle the new as equally as you were able to handle the old, if worst case scenario. I see the fire chief nodding his head in an affirmative.
I think
It's better.
most folks would much rather respond to a bleach leak than a liquid gas leak, but I'm not speaking that for you. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to make sure that we had crossed into these other.
Dan Frank, Fire Chief. So in the event that there is a spill of some sort, we have mutual aid agreement with Lynn County Hazmat, so they'd be dispatched. So there really wouldn't be any change in procedure. They'd show up no matter what. So we'd have it under control.
Thanks, Dan. I just think it's good to have those conversations up front.
Move to approve the water treatment disinfection improvement agreement.
Second.
Was that you, Jeff? Second. Thanks. A motion by Kay, second by Jeff. There's no other council discussion. I'll ask Dane to conduct a roll vote.
Yes.
Songbird,
Yes.
Chicken,
Yes.
Samba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried
Thank you.
unanimously. Andrew, thanks for taking time out and being very knowledgeable to inform council and myself on these projects. 7.4, discussion of possible action, public purpose request letter from Anamosa Pumpkin Fest Committee, Sarah Rickles.
Thanks for coming.
sure.
I think I've kind of kept all the council members in the know on this. Department heads, we've talked about it a few previous department head meetings. Essentially, this just came about as the annual Pumpkin Fest and Ryan Norland Giant Pumpkin Way Off. To get all that correct, I think. Long title, but nonetheless, essentially, this is just the formality of their requests and letter that I reviewed prior to this that defines the public purpose of this. To essentially just make another year of Pumpkin Fest successful. So appreciate it coming.
Sure,
So another formality, would you please state your name?
sure. Sarah Rickliffs, I'm on the Pumpkin Fest Committee. So I think, I don't know if I could articulate it better than Jeremiah already has. It's more just a formal request that we'll need to use city resources that day. And so that's kind of what we're here to request tonight.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve their request.
I will second it.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion, questions, comments. Is there any other public members present that have comments or questions? Hearing none. Dana, would you please conduct a roll call?
Calvert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Stumba,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous.
Thank you.
Sarah, would you please take back to your planning team, the various groups, and thank them for their commitment to the Pumpkin Fest, Pumpkin Way Off for 2022 is no doubt the biggest event this community has on an annual basis. And I, for one, am just very honored that it is in the community. So please take that back. If you would.
We've got most of them sitting here tonight, but thank you. I know they appreciate that.
7.5, discussion and possible action, water distribution agreement, Dan Frank and Steve Ignish.
Dan Frank, Fire Chief. It's all in your guys' packet. So this was brought up to the fire department here this past Monday of an agreement with the city of Anamosa and the Anamosa Volunteer Fire Department as per the Iowa DNR. So I wrote some stuff up. I'm not a good public speaker, but I'm going to summarize it some up here. So I was caught off guard because over half these items were never previously brought up to my attention. I've done a lot of research and reached out to members of the Iowa Fire Chiefs Association if they have seen an agreement like this before, in which I was told to push back. This agreement is supposedly written in the request of the Iowa DNR during the sanitary survey. And when I requested a copy of the sanitary survey that was done in August, over half the details in this agreement is not even requested by the IDNR. I can see the reasoning behind some of the reasons and have no problem agreeing to some of them. As for some of the items in the agreement, it takes the power out of the fire chief's hands and places it in the hands of the utility superintendent, giving the utility superintendent final veto power. You guys got the contract. I'm gonna hit the bold points here. Summarizing the first bold point, all water that is used must be calculated and reported to the city. I don't have an issue doing that. When it comes to a fire and you hook up a truck to a hydrant, it's a little hard to calculate what your true gallons of usage is. If we're hauling water to a rural fire, it's easy to calculate, hey, we had 17 tankers filled up off a hydrant. You're using approximately 2,000 gallons of water. We can get a pretty close rough idea how much water gets used. At our fire station, we have a meter on our water line coming to the station when we fill our trucks, so that water is documented. So that one don't have a whole lot of issue with. The next bullet point, during the non-emergency, the fire department will be required to contact the utility superintendent to discuss the need, and the final decision will be made by the utilities superintendent, and it will be final. When does this utility superintendent have final say if the fire department can train using the hydrants in a non-emergency environment? I have no problem letting the water department know when we're training and using water, but I will not let them have a final say so. If we decide to sit there and say that we want to hook up to a hydrant so our guys can practice hooking up, and I let the utility superintendent, whoever it may be, either now or 5 years from now, they could sit there and say, no, you cannot train, and I have to deal with it. So by me sitting there and agreeing to it, I have a problem. The next point is the only tool is mentioned. The only tool used to open a hydrant is a hydrant wrench. No problem with that. I think that's standard. Everyone should know that you only use a hydrant wrench to open a hydrant. The next bullet point they have there is a 2.5 gate valve will be placed on a hydrant before hooking to a hydrant. Is this city policy? I looked through the city ordinances. I don't see a policy with that. If we have to use a gate valve to hook up to a hydrant, to get enough gate valves on every truck so that we are covered, I'm going to spend over $13,000 to do so. Is this request at the Iowa DNR? Or is this request at the city of Anamosa? Or is this request at this utility superintendent? What is the policy going to be using a 2.5-inch gate valve? The next point, it stated that at no time will a ball valve be used on the back of a truck to stop the flow of water. Water must be shut off at the hydrant before the ball valve can be closed. If a ball valve is used to stop flow and it causes break in the distribution system, the fire department may be held liable for the damages as a cost that will ensure the repair of the main. Again, is this city policy? All my fire trucks have ball valves to shut off the water intake, except my 5-inch lines, which have gate valves. My fire trucks are designed to meet NFPA standards. We meet a national standard with them. When it comes to this agreement that was made, why was the water department writing the agreement without prior discussion with the fire department or fire board? The fire department follows NFPA regulations. I do not answer to the fire or the water department, but to the city administrator, the city council, and fire board. If we were to follow IDNR, then why is there nowhere for the city administrator to sign this agreement as it is stated in the sanitary survey? I want the city's council members to look that over and see what your guys' thoughts are with that agreement. So I have reached out to neighboring departments on fire calls. I have reached out to Fire Chiefs, Iowa Fire Chiefs Association. And they say to push back on some of this.
I read over that and it, to some degree, I kind of agree with you. It kind of sounds like there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. But I'm not as versed in it as you are on that side in the water department. And it might be better if we get you and the heads of those departments together and discuss these things and come to some kind of an agreement that way, rather than us try to figure it out here on the council and then bring it back to us with propositions as to how it should be handled. The more people you have making decisions on the same thing, the less chance you have to get it right. So I think to a point you have some good points, but I don't know all the answers on this. I didn't talk to the water department or the DNR or anything. But it does kind of sound like there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians in certain places there.
I would agree too. And we've got a good fire department, but I know we've struggled to get this is all volunteer. We've struggled to get volunteers, and why are we making more work for a service for the community that benefits everyone, and it's on a volunteer basis? It's when we're already, it's already tough enough to get volunteers.
Well, and I don't know what the DNR has stated out of all of this, but have there been any issues that we've had in the past with any of this? I mean, I guess what's kind of driving,
The DNR is driving.
Yes, yes.
We'll cover it. We've got the sanitary survey for everybody
Dan.
corresponds with.
With the gate
DNR.
valve, does it take
Telling
longer
me
then to hook
exactly.
up?
Take longer to hook up.
So
to
then
it.
that, as that property is burning down, we're waiting to attach
So-
this valve on there.
So this is all non.
Okay, let's
wait.
not yell. We're talking here.
Yeah,
I mean-
they're all non-emergency. Emergency was not in this one. DNR said for all non-emergency situation is what this agreement is for.
But this is fire stuff, right? Fire chief should have. I must say, but that's my opinion.
But I don't get the feeling that it's Anamosa that's driving this agreement. It's the DNR. Am I wrong in that?
The DNR is driving it to a certain extent, but a lot of these bullet points are further driven from the report. So the report's there. I have a copy. You can read through it.
so have
I
you,
got a copy, but
Dan, have you had the fire association look at this agreement?
with the rural
No,
or the members of the fire department.
whatever, whoever you talk to, the fire association, whatever fire,
So we're members of the Iowa Fire Chiefs Association,
okay,
which consists of fire chiefs all across the state of Iowa. And basically it is a sounding board of, hey, here's a question. What do you guys think? What's your guys' procedures? We have a incident involving a firefighter. We're buying a new truck. What's your guys' thoughts? And there's a lot of reputable chiefs with a lot of experience that participate in the forum, and a lot of them say push back. I agree with some of this and I get the backing on some of it, but a lot of it, when I have to sit there and it states in there where if I want to use a hydrant, that the final decision is going to be made by the utility superintendent.
yeah, well, and I get that, but what I was looking for, I guess what my question really is if they've looked at it, is it possible some of them have not had the DNR fall into their city yet to bring this up, but have possibly there've been some where the DNR has brought this up and they now have some form of agreement, but maybe not to the extent of this.
One of the fire departments is West Des Moines. Right off the top of my head, think about who responded to it, the West Des Moines Fire Department. So it's a big community. So for them not to have any involvement, the DNR, they're gonna have to figure communities be on top of their stuff. So
Is this a recommendation or is it a finding? Because I know in audits, there's serious stuff and you might think about this items.
So Steve Agnich, Utility Superintendent, Robert Young, Assistant. So if you take out the first is the sanitary survey. It's this one right here that Robert passed out. I found out about this being on the council Friday night, so I did not get a chance to put anything in the packet. If you open to page 4, this is the sanitary survey. I've highlighted section 3, distribution system, and there's a paragraph right there. Go ahead and read that, please.
it doesn't match. I mean, here it says it needs, it should be signed by water distribution.
Yes, and
City
we
administrator.
missed the city administrator, and I apologize
Yeah,
for that part.
on the other two drafts that were sent to the DNR, city administrator was on there. But between rewriting that one and then having the interim, I missed putting Jeremiah on. But the other two drafts did have the city administrator in there. She was also part of this. So I just missed Jeremiah being on there in the transition between the two. So that final one, I missed that. So first two, first one was the draft, the original one that I gave to the DNR.
That's this other packet.
Well, gave that to the DNR. She emailed me back, said, hey, what about backflow prevention? Well, she also said, we don't currently have one that's portable. So once we have one, she also did say, put this in the agreement. Well, that's not in the agreement right now. Anytime they pull from a hydrant, they're saying backflow prevention. Anytime for a non-emergency type, put a backflow preventer on. There's no air gap on the trucks, no backflow prevention from it. So DNR also said that in my email. So we went off the stuff that we currently have. For that, really the issue was, we've had issues in the past where the fire department would hook up to a hydrant to do something and not tell me. I just happened to give an alarm at the water plant saying my tower was low. Come to find out, Jess Swisher called me. They were at the Anamosa High School, pulling off the pumper side with two trucks hooked to each other, with the decks going, watering the football field. So that was one instance where I was not notified, and two of those dropped the tile 2 foot in less than a half an hour. That much water. That's why it's really important for us to know when they do those types of things, because I can turn the plant up, it can handle it. I just need to know about it. So that's where this is really coming from, and the DNR has expressed it to us. I used the sanitary survey. It does say, get a hold of the operator in charge, which is myself, or Steve, to let us know what's going on. So we're not making it up, we're not trying to make it harder. The DNR is just telling us, hey, it's your distribution system, you need to know what's going on.
And back to the agreement. The only part that was anything remotely that covered an emergency was the first paragraph. All we're asking for is an estimation, because the DNR is big on water loss. Right now, we're currently about 20% water loss. That's not being accounted for. We don't know where it's at. If we don't get some numbers, we can't say, hey, we had X amount of gallons being pumped out for fires, for training, stuff like that. So that's why we're asking for the gallons. And we don't expect you to be, we use 1,050 gallons. If you tell us we use approximately 1,500 gallons, that's all we need, or how long we're pumped to the truck. Also, the rest of this was all specifically explained that this was all non-emergency. The gate valve that you were talking about for the truck, that is non-emergency. We told them also that night that the water department would supply them with a couple of gate valves to use for training. Not a big deal.
Is that a request that the DNR or a demand that the DNR?
We put that one in because my experience is if you have a gate valve to close, it's a lot easier to not, a ball valve, you can go up and go like this, and you can split a water main wide open. We have a bunch of ductile iron water mains. The PVC will take it a little bit more, but there's still a bunch of ductile and cast in town. And as soon as you shut that ball valve, if it's flowing it wide open, you're going to split that open. You're going to split that water main wide open.
Because of the sudden back pressure?
Because of the sudden stop. It'll split the
And
water
then the
main.
gate valve slows down the
Because
speed
you
of
can't,
shutting it off.
you can't shut it off as fast as you can when you do a half-turn ball valve or quarter-turn ball valve.
So it would only be a non-emergency.
Correct. We are not trying to limit their power to fight a fire at any house, anywhere. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose is just to have a little notification and a few guidelines for them to use when when they're training. And as far as, asking about using hydrants and stuff like that, I would have to ask the fire chief if he's here every day and knows what fire hydrants might be up, might be down, what's going on in the neighborhood, is there work being done? Do you know that?
No, no one tells me what's going on.
So if I don't know,
So
we
it
try to
sounds,
turn in.
correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like it's more of a communication problem than it is anything else.
If it,
Am I getting
We
close?
originally thought that this was gonna be just an agreement. If I would have known that was gonna have to bring this to the council, I would have done this back in October when we had this signed off on by the DNR.
Mhm.
But I assumed that we could just work this out between departments.
I think
here
that's
we
what,
are.
I think that's what you guys should do. I think that the fire chief has some good points, and I totally understand why you guys want that information. So, in my opinion, I think all three of you are right, but not quite. So I would say that maybe you guys should sit down and tweak that so it works for everybody.
well, if it's a communication issue, I guess I'd like to see it worded, because years from now, we're gonna have to go off this, and it's gonna state that the superintendent will be final. If it's a communication issue, let's word it to say, chief or assistant or whoever will notify, X number of hours before they, if it's a non-emergency, usually you guys know when you're doing something, like if it, like that night, if the day notice or something that, hey, we're gonna hook onto this, you still have the communication, but you eliminate the possibility of the utility department at now or in the future having final say on the fire department.
I'll go off that too. So like right now, if they want to go out and water a football field with 2 trucks, I would absolutely 110% tell them no. Why? We're down a well. So if I don't have the power to tell them no, and they still want to, now we're putting that well in jeopardy because they don't want to not water a field. Well, with one well, you run a risk of, if something should happen, pumping, I don't know how many extra gallons of running that thing so much harder. If it goes down, the town is now, dead. And then the DNR is gonna come back on me, not the fire department. It'll come back on me, it's on one side for that plant. So that's why in their thing, it says operator in charge should have control of the distribution system. Because if something should happen, it doesn't go to the fire department. It goes to my license. And I can lose my license if they don't want to abide by our rules. And if we do have something down, they can pretty much do whatever they want. That's why it's in there as operator in charge in the sanitary survey.
And that in charge would be only on non-emergency basis.
Right, everything that this agreement covers, and even in sanitary survey, she says non-emergency.
I'm just playing devil's advocate for both sides here because,
And I've even had conversations about these guys using.
Yeah,
hydrants that Crystal said not to. I said, in an emergency, use them. It's an emergency.
see, because there's communication
You guys
again.
know what you're doing, use it.
That's communication again. I think there's some misunderstandings too.
Well, in this agreement, you've got one bullet point that says during a non-emergency. If you're gonna do that, I think that needs to be on every bullet point, not just one.
Yeah,
I explained that.
Well, you may explain it, but it needs to be
Yeah, I
in
agree.
the agreement.
it's now in writing, so now it's
I
got to
understand.
be,
I agree.
yeah.
Yep.
You guys have got good points. I totally understand that.
And I think you can work this thing out, but I think we need to tweak it. And you guys need to talk a little bit. And I think it can come together.
Yeah, we'll just have to again have. people like that. Right. Draft or brief by Michelle
Yeah.
to say, well, it's fine.
But yeah, I really think you either need to say at the very beginning, this only covers non-emergency, or each bullet point needs to state it.
And maybe need to get more specific, non-emergency and these type of uses are allowed or not allowed, because.
And if my house is on fire and you're down one tower, I expect them to come over and pump water.
Which, again, yeah, in an emergency, we can turn up plant as high as we can.
Yeah.
But we're always gonna run that risk when the well is down.
Right.
Or potentially
Yeah.
something that happened, then they know exactly what to do. They will call mutual aid or whoever they need to get water to them.
Yeah,
If
it's,
we have something, and the Cowles fire took down the tower.
Well, the worst thing that could happen would be you approve it, they go out and water the football field, draw it down, and then they have an emergency and now there's no pressure.
Right.
That
That's
would
why
be the
when we
worst
hear-
thing to have happen.
Yeah, because as that tower goes down, the pressure in the main.
how long does it take to get it back up?
Depends on how fast I have to go.
How fast can you run?
I can run 2 high service pumps to, each one is about 1,200 gallons a minute, but right now with one well, it only pumps about 650 gallons a minute. So it's only gonna go about as fast as that well. Now it'll change, once the wells are back up, we can adjust that, and then we can do 2,400 gallons a minute roughly to fill the tower. Not saying we're gonna maintain a 4 liters if you will, but we can sure get some water in the tower. 'Cause I don't know if our stuff will pump that.
Yeah, so it's kind of on your side on when you're down a tower. It's your responsibility to try to make sure they're as full as you can get them.
Right, that's why right now I have it set to 18 feet.
Yeah.
And typically, we have it drop down to about 15 to 14 in the summer, so we can get that turnover. Right now, I've been setting it at 18 feet, giving us about 4 foot of room between that and getting full.
Yeah.
So I'm playing with the power right now to keep us up in case they do have a problem. But the extracurricular, if they did have that and have a huge fire, we're gonna be in trouble.
I think you guys can work this out. It sounds to me more like communication. That's kind of a shock treatment there. He reads it and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. But I'm starting to understand that it's really not going to affect anybody. We're talking communication more than anything. And I like the idea of it being in writing.
Right. and
Because
that's
then if
the only
somebody
reason that's
messes
why
up, they're responsible for what they did.
I would have never done unless she. had.
Yeah, I just,
So this is all on the DNR. And then on his point with no other town having a written agreement, I didn't find many, but the city of Marion. I got back from them. They do have a verbal agreement between the interim fire chief and the city manager that they must call if they are going to do anything. The department will notify the water department of any large amounts of usage, any special requests or uses or residents, or are referred to the water department for approval, of equipment, fees, and etc.
yeah.
So the city of Marion has control over it too. They just don't have it written.
But it sounds like it's, I mean, on a town that, on a community that large, I mean, it's a verbal agreement between the chief and the city. If they don't have anything in writing, I guess, why can't we just do something like that, a verbal?
Because the DNR wants it in writing.
DNR is saying they have to.
Because
DNR rules, Jeff.
I would like to know, in my line of work, when you have an audit, there's different levels of findings. There's some that if you were to do every last thing, you could comply to them, but you'd be closed for business because you couldn't serve your customers. And I think you need to weigh those between being compliant and having good relationships with the department and your
You're right.
customers.
But on that, if the DNR tells me I have to do something, because in that email that she sends to me, she says, hey, this is due by this time, which happened to be the plan of action between us and the fire department. Now, if I don't follow that, I get something on my license. And I'm not gonna get a ding on my license and potentially get it taken away. It's taking a long time to get it for an agreement that I just didn't want to write. So I have to write these things, the DNR is telling me to, and I don't want to ding on my license because I'm not following their rules.
If you look at the first email that Robert submitted right here, that's where that line is that she's bringing up the fact that it was technically due October 15th. The
I had
agreement
the
was.
first draft here.
I don't have a
So-
problem with it being down in writing. I actually
Yeah.
like the idea
Yeah.
because nobody has to, there's no
Well-
questions that way.
it eliminates a gray area. This person leaves and then this person, but have we had such significant water loss? That's what's driving this?
So, yes. Our water loss, kind of out of control. We're at about 20% range or more, which is also why we've been putting meter pits in at the farms to kind of control that. What DNR wants you to do is the acceptable range is 7% of it.
So we got water lines, or do we have water lines that are creating a lot of this?
See, we gotta start somewhere, which is our easier stuff. Meter everything, get calculations from everybody that uses water, and then start moving from there. I don't know if we have homes that have weekly stuff, but they have meters. So that's why the DNR kind of told me too, hey, so I put meter kits in. I already put one down here on the Oceana, and then Banana Park, to start with this water loss problem. That's part of it.
And then,
We are way out of range where it should be.
and then if the fire department gives you approximations of what they've used, that'll
Yes,
help in
that will
in
help.
your process.
That will help rationalize, yeah.
5, 6, 7% right there, and that brings us down to teens now. Now we have another place to start, which is continue to meter everything else. See if there's, anything we can start with, leak detection and stuff like that. And then we can start finding more and more water losses. as we go along. But this is a good starting point with the DNR. And that's what this is about. That's what we're kind of doing.
We have to take care of our aquifer,
Yeah.
or we won't have any water at
Yeah.
all.
We're at the mercy of the DNR and the state. I mean, when we closed this highway down here, Dubuque, on Dubuque Road, they told us if we didn't close it, they would. And if we'd have bucked that, our financial position with the state would have been in jeopardy because of that. DNR is the same way. There's certain things that they require. I think that I think you guys should just get together and sit down and go through the stuff. Make sure that you make the DNR happy
We'll- I'll get-
and do what you can to make both your departments happy.
We'll bring her in on the Congress.
And
We'll have a proper track record here first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she can explain her reasoning as well.
in the last year, I've seen our departments and all the people working together. It's been nirvana. I haven't heard complaints. I talked to people, everybody's happy about what's going on. I want to keep that happening. And that's one of the reasons I butted in here. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to tell one person he's right and the other person he's wrong. You've all got good points. I just think that you guys, like Rich said, you can tweak this thing, make the DNR happy and find a happy medium where everybody can live with what's going on. And I like the idea of being in writing. That way there's no gray areas. There's nobody saying, well, we were talking about this the other day and well, I don't remember you saying that. It's in writing. It should be. There's too many people working for the city. There's too many places where we can make mistakes. The department heads probably not as much, but with the employees, it's better to have it in writing. So that's my thought.
Well, I think nobody likes change. I mean, nobody does, but I think once you kind of get going with the flow, things will be okay when you're talking about non-emergency situations.
And this city's growing fast. We're expanding, we're bringing in manufacturing. We're gonna need more things in writing than we've got now to make sure that we don't run into a snag someplace. So I think that you guys can get this worked out.
I guess I'll just reiterate, I would like to see it be more the flavor of Marion's. Basically saying there's gonna be communication, but I would not be in favor of having it be that the utility superintendent has final say. You're putting that in writing, you're giving an awful lot of power to any future positions. It's gonna take an awful lot to override that. So I 100% agree there needs to be communication from both parties, but I am not in favor of that.
Final say would be this, just what you were talking about. Hey, we're down a tower and we've got a problem here. But that would be resolved in communications right away.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I think if you communicated that, I'm sure you guys would say, okay, we'll
Yeah,
do it another time. So
yeah,
Yeah.
no
I
houses
I
burning
don't
down.
think
we'll do
that
it
would be a
another time.
problem.
I think that's too strong, but I get the reasoning and I get the point behind it. And I understand why he's saying that. But I think it's communication. You guys can get that worked out. I know you can.
so we can table this till you guys have had an opportunity.
Yeah, bring it
to
back.
I guess I,
discuss And talk with the DNR.
Yeah, I think you guys can get this done.
I just wrote down a few questions through this. One of them is, so my understanding, the fire department has never previously reported the amount of water usage.
Not to my knowledge. No, since I've been back from the, not to my knowledge.
That you were
Now,
talking a
we do
year?
have A meter, which if they can fill off the truck, it's all metered, and we can do that every month. Now, for training, nothing's ever been calculated to my knowledge or anything to the city. So when they're out there, watering football fields, or playing water ball, and things like that, the extracurricular and training, that's never been reported back to the city.
Do you agree, Dan?
Right.
That's not been reported.
Right.
So I noticed one of the things in the report stated filling swimming pools, I believe.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So when you guys do that, you do not report,
We fill from, our procedures to fill from the station, so it's reported.
so it's now reported with the
So it is
meter on.
reported.
So it is
Okay.
reported.
So it is reported.
Okay.
Only time we hook the hydrants is if we're doing other, like on a training night or a regular training activity. Is when we'll hook to a hydrant.
Okay.
So, yeah, when it comes like pool filters, some of that extra do stuff here with the library, or stuff like that, we always fill back at the station because it is a metered. So it's documented.
Okay.
As far as the third dot point item down, the tool. Do all trucks come equipped with? this
Every truck has a
specific
hydrant.
tool?
Yes.
So it's a non-issue.
Right. The only thing, I've never seen them not use the hydrant tool, but I have seen other individuals, not the fire department, so I wanted to start there. So if they have something, I can go back on contract and go, don't use a pipe wrench. I've seen contractors do it. I've seen a lot of people just take out a pipe wrench, but they don't have a hydrant, so fire department. And they turn on the hydrant. That's just an added extra. We already knew they knew about it. They already knew they had to do this. We just want to make sure if something should get lost, or they have somebody new that just grab the pipe wrench. Does it? Then we know, hey, yeah.
To me, that's training on the fire departments.
Yep.
All right, so then fourth dot point item, the 2.5 gate valve. So who requested that to be
We did.
implemented?
We did.
You guys,
From experience. of
not
being
the
water operator.
DNR.
No,
Okay.
it's just an added precaution. There's the fact that with an abrupt stop and you fill up, so say you fill up down there by tap. There's 90-something PSI down there. You turn that valve out, you just double the pressure going back into that main. It's a very old main, and if you have someone that's not trained and just turns it off, well, that's going to just blow apart.
So all these are, even though it doesn't state, they're not emergency situations.
Correct.
All right. So we're talking about blowing a fire hydrant up in a sense because of how quickly on or off. In an emergency,
In an emergency, yeah.
the same thing can happen if they go.
They could, right.
And that's, we're fine with that.
We totally
It's the
understand.
non-emergency stuff that is where we want to try to mitigate the issues and cause it.
Every time a line blows, it costs money to fix it.
Right.
So to me, it would come back to training of the firemen about quickly, because you sure as heck don't want to blow it in an emergency situation either.
That's what we teach
So I
them.
gotta believe that they're trained to open that or close that at such a rate.
So you can train. But until somebody's actually tested, you don't know if they're gonna.
We've got to
Have
say,
somebody in a hurry, just go.
we've got a saying at our shop that it's what will happen if I do this? And I'm telling you what, as many times I've preached to employees, every once in a while,
Right.
they did it anyway.
Yeah. So we just want something there to do with potential.
So
So
the
the gate valve is gonna help.
the final dot point item, that this is not city policy, it is per this agreement. Currently, what you have listed there is not a city policy. I don't know if someone had mentioned that earlier on.
Right, we don't have an active city policy that covers anything that we're agreement, and that's why it was brought up in sanitary survey. We probably wouldn't have been brought up if the city had a policy already covered this. This is the DNR going, well, you don't have one in place, so let's go ahead and do it.
So then, as I read the DNR report that Steve, you highlighted that item 3.
Yep.
the first dot point, it says the city of Anamosa has made strides in reducing water loss by metering all service connections. But it was reported that the fire department is connecting to hydrants, blah, blah, blah. So who reported it?
The issue came up is when, the main thing that came up was when the fire department put the hydrant, we had 2 trucks. Did not notify me that they're running on the pumper side, all the hydrant, with 2 trucks on the deck now to water a football field, and the alarms start going off the water because the tower was above. I never got a phone call, I never got anything. And that kind of drove that, to actually, what can I do? That you should have, as an operating call, you should be notified any time as a non-emergency when somebody's looking to do distribution.
Well, I understand the importance of it. There's a difference between should and shall. Should is recommendation, shall is must. That's all. Should and shall are 2 different things. It sounds to me like council is looking to table this. So is your thought process to approve before it's given to the fire department to sign? Is it council that approves this? Or are you just leaving it for the services,
I'd like to see them,
utilities to
I'd
come
like
to
to
this
see them
agreement?
get that worked out, so they're all happy with it. And it takes care of the DNR for sure. So we can actually show them on paper what we're doing. And you guys are happy with what's going on between each other. And then we'll accept it.
Well, yeah, bring it back and
Just
have
bring
the
it back.
DNR's blessing with it.
Yeah.
So council
And
will
you guys
approve
can, you guys can work it out.
Sprinkle
We'll be
with
approving
stardust
it
and
in
all that
its
other stuff, and
the final
everybody
draft.
live happily ever after.
So we're gonna table it for now.
I move,
Want
I
a
move we
motion?
table, move to table.
Second.
A motion by Jeff, second by Alan to table the water distribution agreement until it can be worked out through the parties and take it and be brought back for final approval. All right, there's your motion. Any other discussion? Public comment? Dana?
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Scout.
Yes.
Motion to approve tabling carried unanimous. 7.6, discussion and possible action, amended water, wastewater certification pay scale.
Steve Agnes, Utility Superintendent. So as you can see, there should be in your packet. So the previous scale I feel was unfair. It put more weight into some licenses than it did others. And what I want to do is basically level the playing field with the licenses. So if we get an employee, he or she gets a license, it's cut and dry. It's $1 raise. Instead of, well, if he gets a wastewater license, it's $2, or if he gets a water license, it's 50 cents, or a distribution license, it's 50 cents. I just want to make it even across the board, make it easier and it's easier to encourage the employees to get the licenses if it's even across the board. The dollars are the same. Whether it's on the top one, if you add that all up, it comes to $7. Across the bottom, it's $7. It's the same money, just changing the scale is all I'm doing.
Did you just restate? And maybe you were just offering up. Wastewater was $2.
Yes, it was. If you got a wastewater grade 1, you got a $2 an hour raise. But then if you go and get your water treatment license, it's only 50 cents. And then if you went and got your water distribution license, it was 50 cents. where I basically took the dollar off the wastewater and we just make it, I broke that out, so it's $1 per license. Like I said, to try to encourage the employees to keep moving forward with their education and
Not
getting their
increasing the
license.
amount of money, it's just giving more incentive.
Yes,
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
And the
Yeah.
dollar would increase with each level of certification.
yes, yes. So you take an operator or a trainee that we have, they get their wastewater 1 license, they get $1. Then we can send them right away, go get their distribution license. They get that passed, they can get $1. They get their water treatment license, they can get $1. Same on all the way across the board. Again, to try to grow our own operators within.
There, I heard you, there's 7 different levels of certification an employee could attain.
Yes. And like I said, the old scale was the $7, so the new one is the same. It's also $7. Just broken up a little more even.
Move to approve.
I say,
Motion by Kay, second by Alan. For council discussion. Dana, please.
Crum,
Yes.
Bamber,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
yes,
Smith.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 7.7, resolution approving the hiring and setting salary of seasonal part-time employee for the streets department for the 2022 summer season.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Well, council discussion. Would this be 40-hour a week? No?
Came around street superintendent. This is not 40. He actually coaches the high school baseball team. So he's gonna do this in between. I had him last year and the LCC had him before. And he's very good. He shows up. I mean, we'll have to work around his baseball schedule, but it was nice having somebody that, you know, could work with all the guys and we could throw him anywhere that we needed him last year. So I thought it was a little too low last year where he was at. He was coming off the LCC. And he did such a good job. I want to put him up there where the rest of my part-time guys are. Because he'll be doing the same stuff.
He'll be working side by side with everybody. There's
Yeah.
not specific
Right.
duties you have identified.
No,
He'd be sharing it all with the Parks and Rec doing the mowing and stuff.
he'll be mowing for us.
And you said he worked with you guys last year now with the parks?
Yeah, he came over from the LCC, didn't need him, so I brought him over. We used him all last summer.
move to approve.
So motion, I already have written down a motion by Kay,
Kay already.
second by you.
Okay,
Any other discussion? Dana, please.
Stout,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
yes,
Bamber,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.8, review and approval liquor license renewal Casey's.
Move to approve.
second,
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Discussion? You haven't had any issues, have you, chief, with this
No,
entity?
no.
Council questions? Dana?
Bamber,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
yes,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.9, review and approval liquor license renewal hot shots.
Move to approve.
Second,
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Same question, chief? Any issues?
I think they worked through, they had a few that the fire chief had handled and they got worked through those okay. We kind of preempted this. Otherwise, we had a couple calls to the state just to check on some things, but no response and no other suggestions. So they met the criteria.
So is there two, like, for the first one, there's two forms? And this, there's, the first one's filled out, but the second one's blank.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
No.
We just noticed that ourselves. So the first or the second form is just their application to us. We can double check on that.
Oh, normally you just do this one?
Yeah. The first form is just for them to fill it in for us, for
Okay.
our office. So we'll make sure we get that.
Any other questions? Dana?
Dugan? Yes.
Yeah.
Stout?
Yes.
Bamber?
Yes.
Smith?
yes,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.10, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
second,
Motion by Jeff, second by Kay. Dana, I don't know if you can clarify, but I do have a couple questions for clarification. Page 6, this is of the 12-page section. Municipal supply 600-810-6472, system maintenance, $15,000.
Steve Agnes, Utility Superintendent. We bought a whole bunch of 4-inch, 6-inch gate valves, different couplings and stuff, because we're gonna start digging up some bad valves and hydrants and stuff like that. And that was just some of that stuff. There actually is another one coming that's a little more, probably next time, for hydrants that we purchased. We purchased 12 new hydrants. But it's not on this one. It's not on this bill list.
You may want to stay.
Okay.
Page 7 of 12, under T&D tree service.
Nope, nope, that's it.
Okay.
We had a bunch
Account
of
number
dead trees.
001-290-6428, tree trimming stump removal for $12,050.
Yep, we did, I believe 10 trees and 11 stumps. Dead trees.
So I think we completely removed those trees.
Yep. Yep, they're all seeded down and should have grass growing.
Various locations throughout the city.
Yep.
I do have a couple of questions. You probably know, just out of curiosity, the Kleesner construction for 7293, what's spots for those?
Oh, so Casey's parking lot. We had some millings put down instead of rock. It's supposed to last longer. We're not gonna have mud puddles, no dust. So we did Casey's and then the alley between Garnavillo and senior dining also.
And then I don't know, maybe Dana knows, but is this under the right category? It's nuisance abatement mowings to Kuba Automotive? I just never seen us use them before.
I could probably answer that one. That is correct. So that nuisance abatement was, it was supposed to be a catch-all category that not only catches mowing, but any nuisance enforcement that would fall, work services that would fall under nuisance enforcement. So this would have been towing for nuisance related vehicles.
Follow along with his inquiry. We, the city paid for that, and we will be reimbursed.
We certainly work at that. Yes, that's the goal. There's a process to go through to get that taken care of, and ultimately, it does require a letter to be sent to vehicle owners and or property owners if it's not a vehicle, if it's property, to try to recoup some of those funds. And if not, the filing letter with the county to get them to assess that to the registered owners vehicle taxes. So there's a method to try to get that back. Takes a little time.
So vehicle tax, still, if they goes unpaid, can it be assessed to the individual's property tax?
I would have to check on that. I don't believe so. I believe they're separate. So if it's vehicle related, it can only go on their motor vehicle registration. Whereas if it's property, it would be property tax assessed.
Thanks. The other questions? Dana?
Yes.
Kronberg,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Motion to approve payment of bills carried unanimous. 8.0 City Administrators Report.
I don't have anything too major this week. Just wanted to let everybody know the auditors are kind of finishing up. They're mostly off site now, but they are in contact with us via email. We still have the final report that'll be on the way, so I'll update everybody with that as soon as we get that. The IT or email transition, we're basically done with that. I think as most of you at this table know, there's been just a few small hiccups with getting the migration or transferred over, but nothing major. A few calendar migration issues we're working on. The LCC and the library, they had some programs that worked well with the Gmail. I'm just trying to figure those out, but it's a work in progress. And it's just weeks of that curve.
I do have a question for you. Where do we stand with the joint meeting with the supervisors? Have you spoken to them yet?
I've not, no, I haven't had any feedback yet from the DNR or a potential third. I know that there's some question over the land, whether it's county, state, who we need to be talking to, and I have not heard back yet. So I haven't reached out to the supervisor yet.
Okay, do we need to get that agreement back on the agenda to approve it, to make sure it doesn't expire and then we have a whole different can of worms? So at least we've got 2 years to explore.
You sure can.
So I think we need to probably do that and get that taken care of.
Good point, Rich. Any other questions for Chief?
How about the code enforcement guy?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. He's pretty much hit the ground running. I think doing a pretty good job. He's taken over a lot of the building enforcement side of things. We did get his, there's a certification for code enforcement that's out there. And it's been a while, so I'm not sure if you recall, but we had requested that he would get that done as soon as possible. But it is kind of, there's several books that go along with that. We did get those in the mail, and I threw them on his desk the other day. So we'll be getting after that. Glad he's doing it, not me. The books are not thrilling reads, but yeah, he's making progress, and I would, I guess, urge anybody who's got any nuisance type stuff to give us a call. He's definitely getting on it.
Great. Anything else? Thanks. Chief. 9.0 Mayor and Council reports. 9.1 Mayor's report. I just wanted to let everyone know that I've had a lot of positive comments from the public regarding the way the downtown looks. Obviously, the facade revitalization project is huge. We've been working on it for roughly a year. But also the painting of the holes. That multiple people say that they really think it sets the downtown off. So, you know, we got a lot of good things going on in the community. If we can just, let's celebrate those and continue to run on that. Because we know at some point, there's always someone that has to inject a little bit of negativity in it. But let's run this positive streak for as long as we can. So I know Shane, I think you kind of coordinated getting those painted. Very much appreciated. That's got your fingerprints on it. Well, not not literally. Other than that, I'm looking forward to second phase of that project to inject some love into the north side of the downtown. That's all I have. 9.2 council reports. 10.0 public comment for items not on the agenda. 11.0 adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for hanging in there with us this evening.